Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everybody. I'm Preacher Moss, host of the SOS, the Shout Out Show. Welcome to our Sunday potluck edition of the Shout Out Show. I hope you're having a great Sunday heading into a Monday. You know how it is. Monday's a Monday. So make the best of what you can do here on Sunday. This is our live version of the show. Yesterday we had to go pre-record it. Sometimes every once in a while, your host will overbook or double book something. That's what happened to me. But I apologize, but I also am appreciative of the opportunity I had to host the Share Your Story edition for WD Islamic Center of in Georgia, actually in Greensboro, North Carolina. We had great stories about Imam Muhammad, great community, raised some money. So, those things are very, very important. So I hope you guys don't mind the pre-recorded piece that I did yesterday, but I did try to make sure that it was worth your while. I enjoyed making it. I hope that somehow you guys got some value out of it. That's number one. Number two, we want to shout out. I normally shout out this after the break. We want to shout out the sick and shut in. Sister Nancy Mustafa, Brother Kendrick Samuels, Miss Eleanor. Also want to shout out Miss Lorraine. We want to shout out a whole lot of people. And if you have some folks that you want to make sure we get the message out and we send those love packages out to those people, make sure you get to the comment section if you're watching the show. Okay. Now, today's show, brothers and sisters, is interesting because it follows suit, sort of like what I was doing this weekend. Every once in a while, you lose touch with a brother, sister, a cousin, a good friend. You lose touch with them. And a lot of times we'll have the conversation, oh, I can't find so and so. I don't know where so and so is. And I was faced with that this weekend, trying to find a good brother of mine, very good friend. We started comedy together here in Milwaukee. It was funny. We were double booked for R&B singer named Tony Terry, and we've been friends ever since. Very talented comedian, five-time winner at the Apollo, but I lost touch with him. And you haven't ever had that feeling sometimes where you go to the phone and you dial somebody, you've had the number for a while, it doesn't work. That's what happened to me. And I think as it grew and grew and grew and grew and grew, the anxiety was there. Well, they're not well, they're sick and things like that. And to the point you're like, I'm gonna go try and find this person's house. I'm gonna try and go look for him. And the funny part is, I couldn't even remember the address. I couldn't even remember the street they were on. Long story short, I found them. But after I found them, they were okay. I really sat and said, I am extremely blessed that I had that put in me. Now, in the coaching game, if you will, in sports, when we have somebody who needs something, maybe they have raw talent, but they're not solid. A lot of times we call that we need to coach them up. We need to coach those people up. And I feel in our community, we do need to coach people in our community. We also need to, I change the term, we need to love them up. So I want to talk about, in this particular aspect, how we love up people in our community. I'm going to give a couple of narratives about some people who helped me realize that. And I'm going to give a shout out to Ma'am Jihad Safir out in Los Angeles with Isla, LA, who actually gave a kuppah one time. And the kuppah resonated with me. And I want to say that struck a chord because it was so basic in nature, but profound. In the context of we believers, it's not even my brother, am I my brother's keeper? Am I my sister's keeper? Just a logic that if you promote a certain aspect of wellness amongst your brothers and sisters, your family and such, that wellness will abound. That you create culture that lends itself to people who are on the fringe or sometimes people who are outside of the fringe. So, today's subject, loving up our community. Not loving our community, that's one thing, but loving up our community. I mean, there are aspects of our community and people in our community that we really need to be paying special attention to in some regards, but making it not something that is, a special event. And indeed, creating something like normalcy that we do call something of normalcy that we do drop by when we don't hear from you. When we hear so and so is sick in that circle, we want to make sure we check on that so and so, but the other people around them. A lot of times when somebody gets ill, we check on the ill person, but we don't check on the family that's providing healthcare and services for support. So we're going to delve into that for our Sunday potluck. I hope you're going to stick with us. Let's go ahead and get the show started. I'm Preacher Moss. This is the Shout Out Show.
The world stopped. Mosques closed. So we prayed alone. Gatherings stopped.
But the show must go on. 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 But the show must go on.
Cinema!
But the show must go on. But the show must go on. All right, brothers and sisters, give a little shout out to Isna. That's going to be Labor Day weekend, September 4th and 5th, virtually. The 2021 Isna Virtual Conference is going to be going down. They got major speakers coming through. They have over 100 speakers coming, trying to expand the whole idea. I think some of the features of this particular conference is that they're going to have a town hall, and they're going to be looking for some of your opinions and suggestions as to how they can improve this whole aspect and experience of course, the Isna Conference, which will hopefully, inshallah, be coming back to an in-person status in 2022. But for this conference, brothers and sisters, I think they're doing some groundbreaking stuff. I mean, I'm going to be there as a part of it. I'm Mr. Isna for this year, and we're going to make sure that we make this thing worth your while. In fact, I'm going to take this subject matter and tell them this is one thing you need to start talking about in our community, Muslim community, but also interfaith communities. We need to start loving up our communities. We need to start loving up our communities. And now let me tell you guys and share with you an experience I had. I was on the road. I was on the road in Los Angeles, had come to LA for a show or something like that, and had decided to take part in Juma due to when my plane I'm sorry. When my plane landed in LA, I was like, let me see what time I have. And I had just enough time to get to Juma. I called and I was on my way. This is Isla, LA, where they do just a great amount of things. Imam Jihad Safir, one of our very, very promising up-and-comers in terms of just intellectual capacity. His brand of community entrepreneurism is amazing. They're doing great things there. Shout out also to Omar Regan that puts in a lot of time there. Here's the deal, brothers and sisters. I went to Juma, Friday prayers, and I was sitting there, and you know how Friday prayers are. You get the call of prayer, all these things. Everything seemed normal. And the imam took the minbar, and he began to speak, and he stopped speaking. You know, he went through the particulars, and he stopped, almost like he had given himself his own commercial break. And he looked at the congregation and was hurt. It was a visible pain in his face. And he said, we have a problem. Of course, everybody looked around. What's the problem, man? He said, we have a problem. And we also, obviously, we don't want problems in our community. So he said, here's the problem. And he said, we're all guilty. I'm like, how am I guilty? I don't even know what the problem is. He said, well, all guilty. He said, because there is a member of our community, a pioneer of the LA Muslim community, who gave and gave and gave of herself for years, who now finds herself in a retirement home. But she's in a retirement home in a different way. She's in a retirement home where no one visits her, no one calls her, there's no letters, she doesn't have proper toiletries, nobody's bringing her food just to make sure she's okay, blankets, and she's sad because she's so alone. And while we didn't even have a chance to let that sink in, he said it's a crime. And I said, ooh, this is not going well for us. He said it's an indictment of our community that she is in that position, and we're sitting here on a Friday and nothing is being done. On a Friday, nothing is being done. And he said we must be very, very careful about our elders. He said because they put in the work and they sacrifice, hoping that when their time of need comes, that we will show through for them. And it was that conversation that got me so sparked, brothers and sisters, that I realized that I had a very good friend, an elder that I always check on. And at that point, I had been tardy for a little bit, meaning I hadn't called maybe about a month or two. I'd usually go for one a call a month or twice a month. Hadn't called, hadn't texted. And I remember calling her and saying, first of all, how are you? I said, but before we even get to that, of course, vibing of what I heard of this khutbah, I said, let me apologize for not being diligent and making sure that you are at least okay. Let me apologize for being short-sighted and assuming, even though you have children, your own family, that you are all right. And I said the next time, I said, if I become lazy in this aspect, please call me on the carpet, straighten my back up about what I should be doing. That's it, because you've lived your life. And we as the youngsters are in service to you. And I even told her, say, listen, I am going to, next time when I'm in your area, I'm gonna come, I'm gonna take you to lunch, and we're gonna sit, we're gonna laugh, and I'm gonna make sure that you have a good time that day. And I did do it. It happened right before Hurricane Harvey 2017. That concept, brothers and sisters, is something that we are missing. Now we can blame it on COVID and things like that, but it's not a COVID issue. We can blame a lot of things on COVID, but this is not a COVID issue. When we talk about aspects of community, we are very, very good at doing target segmentation. My community, your community. The impetus is, if we took all of the labels off, would we not just be people? My father used to say in life is two types of people. In terms of life, he said that people who need things and people who don't need things. And I thought it was general. And he was like, no, 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 no. He said, we're talking about the assessment of human development. People need things, people need things. He says it's a varying thing. And I said, well, he is correct. As much as I wanted to intellectualize, he was 100% correct, because a lot of times, brothers and sisters, the scope, if you will, of investigation, that is the process of loving people up. When we talk about sports and things like that, we can coach them up. He can be better. How come we don't love each other up? How come we don't make calls to loved ones to say, hey, listen, I ain't trying to be in your business. Are you good? The pursuit of my friend that I hadn't heard from, and his phone number didn't work. I could have left it at that. I could have called. I called around to people who might have seen it, but you know what? It was not enough. And this is not any indication of something that's in me. It's something that's in all of us. It's something that is inherently been put in all of us, that we do have this larger capacity to care, this larger capacity to make sure that you're all right. I I've annoyed people sometimes, like, hey, I haven't seen you. You okay? And just the investigation, brothers and sisters, is vital to make sure somebody knows that you are a value. I have not seen you. Your value is missing. Your opinion is missing. These things are not apparent. So I just want to make sure that we get to that space and think on that a little bit. And we're gonna get into our stars in the building. I started out wrong, but I started out right because it was on my heart. I hope you guys don't mind. If this is your first time coming to the Shout Out Show, we normally don't do this, brothers and sisters. We normally announce everybody in the show. But if it's your first time, here's the rules: share, subscribe, like, notification, do all of that. But most importantly, come to the show with an open mind. You are a part of the show. I am the host of this platform, but I'm not the owner of this platform. The people make the show. So this topic right now is a result of people who have made a definite imprint on my thinking, if you will. And if you're the first time on the show, listen, you can get in that comment section. You can share your thoughts. There's some people there who are before you. They are known as the stars in the building, better known as the Shout Out family, the Shout Out soldiers. Can we get them up here, please? Our first one, of course, Sister Ree. How you doing, Ree? How'd that go yesterday at International Market? How did you do? I saw the menu: fried chicken, grilled chicken. Was it fried chicken, baked chicken? You had a lot of stuff on there. I hope you sold well because I'm proud of you. This is week number 2, brothers and sisters. Let's make sure we clap Sister Ree up. We love her up on that entrepreneur thing. Much love, Sister Ree. All right, next up. What's going on, my sister Jamisa? Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. That's right, young sister. I am Mr. Isna. How are you doing? I know you're newlywed. I appreciate that. Peace and blessings to you and your husband and your family. I hope all is going well. Like I said, wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, my sister. If anybody gets a chance, make sure you let us know when you're having a performance, Sister Jamisa. I'd appreciate that. So you can let us know where we can see you, or even if you just send us a clip, we can put it on the show. We want to make sure that as artists, we love you up too. All right. Next up, my main man, Altaf Rashid, all the way from Toronto, Ontario. What's going on, Altaf? Better known as Mr. 6 o'clock, straight up, straight down, the official Canadian ambassador to the Shout Out Show. What do you think about this whole idea of loving up our community, brother Altaf? Let me hear you. Sister Jamisa, what are you thinking? Let me know. Okay, next up. That's right, my brother Johnny L. Thomas. He knows how I am. What's going on now, JT? My main man taking care of me, hosting me while I'm in the great city of Milwaukee. Make sure I get around. I don't get no trouble. All right. And shout out to my nephews. That would be Justin Jordan and Ray. JT had a kiddie party yesterday. He thought it was going to be a breeze because he had to set up one table. There's 3 kids. I'm like, no. He was tired by the end of the day, boy. And you were worn out, weren't you? He'd be like looking around going, these ain't my kids. These are my grandchildren. They don't care. They love Papa and they try to wear you out. You don't know they had a meeting before you showed up. Okay, next up. What's going on, Lil Don? Well, Donald Foster, but I call him Lil Don. As you guys know, I lost my cousin. His father, may Allah be pleased with him, Donald Foster Sr. This is Donald Foster Jr. If you guys have anything in terms of, if you like candles, sending candles, he is the man to talk to. I bought a couple, and they smelled up the whole place. Thank you so much, Brother Don. Good to see you, man. This is my cousin, my blood. So I'm doing all right, cousin. I'm hanging in there. Let us know how you're doing. How's that family? How's that young man? How's the wife? You know how we do. Let me know how things are going back in Maryland and back in on your side of the fence, and reach out. We haven't connected in a while, so when I get back home, we got to do something together. All right. Next up, that's right. Love you too. Next up, Sister Janice Tuff, JT. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. All the way, and Jimmy Boggs. Okay, beloved community. Sister Janice Tuff is from the Seattle area. For those who don't remember or don't know, from the Seattle area, beautiful sister, doing great things out there. Every time she comes on the show, she shares some things with me on, I think it was Facebook Messenger. Just a gentle spirit. We appreciate you coming on the show, Sister Janice Tuff. The other JT, but I can't call you JT. There's only one JT, but I'm going to call you Sister Janice. But thank you so much. We're doing all right, and it's a pleasure to hear from you. Next up. Okay, of course we got Our consultant producer, that would be Miss Satana Whitfield, making sure everything works on the back end of this show. Sister Satana, thank you so much. Like I said, we don't say thank you to you every day. It's because we should be saying it twice a day. Thank you so much, and we appreciate you. Okay, we're gonna call Sister Janet stuff Jet. All right, we're gonna call you Jet Jet. I like the way that works. So dig on this whole idea of loving about community. I told a joke last night, and it was one of those jokes when you talk about being an old man. Just growing into being an old man, and the jokes kind of go, when you get to be an old man, you should be able to say whatever you want to. Why? Because you're closer to death and you're closer to life, right? So I joke about talking to young guys, and the joke simply was I saw a group of young guys on the corner, pants hanging down, talking real loud, smoking a little weed. And I went over to them and said, "Hey, I don't know any of you guys. I don't mean to get in your business, but look here, whatever it is you're trying to do in life, I just want you to know, probably not going to work out from what I see." Now that's wrong. That's wrong. But what I really wanted to say was, we have to get back to the point that despite what we see from our youth, or despite what we see in our community, that community does have value. And intrinsically, if we lend positivity to the situation, we have to understand that that's a situation that is bereft, if you will, of positivity. And we have to step into the space and step outside of ourselves and our personal feelings. And we have to engage in what we call Islam, the unseen, the al khayb. We have to realize that while we can't see it right now, if we interject positivity and energy into it, there's a chance that it could come through. And that is the aspect of community. If you're talking about community building and things like that, it is the idea that you're not building community for you. You're building community for the people who are going to come behind you. And it's no small feat. Imam Jihad Safir was correct because he talked about a very physical and relevant situation of somebody who was a pioneer who had done her time, if you will. She had put in her energy, if you will, to make sure that the community was thriving. It was meaningful. It was evolving, but we failed because we somehow did not see her as part of the community. And the whole idea of not singing something is almost tantamount to not saying something. Let me explain. In the larger idea of being able to be a change agent or a help agent in our communities, the one thing you have to learn, brothers and sisters, outside of having thick skin, is understanding that victories and failures oftentimes are not about you. The people that you're trying to affect, a lot of times they have their own designs on how life is supposed to be. Whether it's successful or not, whether it's realistic or not, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the aspect, brothers and sisters, that our folks have to lend themselves almost to the credo of the educator or the mental health person or the preacher or the imam or the rabbi. That when you speak to people in terms of metaphysics, we're talking a spiritual realm, that you have to give it to people in their place where they are and step back and continue to work towards that goal. It's not enough to lead people to a door, as my mother would say. In life, leadership is not leading people to a door. Leadership is getting people to build a house and have their own door. Does that make sense? Per se, they say they say life, and sometimes the whole idea of lizard brain, if you will, which is we have these instinctual things, and I used to believe that. I still believe parts of that, but the fact that they give you fight or flight, and those are the only two options when you're dealing with things, anxiety, like you deal with fight or flight. Those were the two F's. But I always believed in the third F, which is not fight or flight. It was flourish, because it was an investment about, listen, we're going to go through this situation together. Loving up our community is interesting because too often it's been this space where we have to have this galvanizing incident that's normally a negative incident. That's normally representing some type of trauma that the community is going through. And I would like to introduce the fact that we can love people up when there's not a tragedy, when there's not some overreaching, sad incident that's going on. And I think if we can do that, brothers and sisters, I think that the community aspect, or I want to say the community characteristic and texture changes, if you will. That you call somebody when you don't have to call somebody. That you reach out to somebody and say, hey, listen, hadn't heard from you, just want to make sure you're all right. It's not a long conversation. And that sometimes the people that you're reaching out to, maybe they're not at a crisis level or emergency level, but maybe the anxiety is there, but just reaching out alleviates so much of that anxiety. When I was a teacher way back when, I had a classroom of kids that they were, I don't want to say they're difficult kids. They came from difficult backgrounds. They dealt with difficult life circumstances at a very young age. And one of my teachers, one of my reading resources teachers, my first year said, if you meet these young men at the door and explain to them that they have work to do, but you also have work to do, she said it would increase and it changes the community texture of your classroom. That was the first time I ever heard the community texture of your classroom. Because in teaching, they say the environment, behavior management, all that type of stuff. And she was right. She was right. And in that space, I learned that it really wasn't for me to be in school as an educator, more so a facilitator, because hands down, all the students were very smart, articulate, intelligent. At a young age, they were extremely intellectual. But the thing that was beautiful, the thing that reminded me, and this is something I have to throw out, that I was a community child. It was nothing for my neighbor, my friend's father to talk to me about school, or my neighbor down the street to talk to me about athletics. And it was interesting because they didn't have to do it. They had their own children, they had their own business, but they were very, very understanding about what built effective community. So this whole idea, brothers and sisters, like I said, I borrowed it from the coach, the sports world. We can coach him up; he can be better, or we can love up people in our community so that they can be better, and that they can feel like a sense of fulfillment for things that they do, whether you see it or whether you don't see it, and that we could be the catalyst for a different type of community moving forward, a love community. I was recently dealing with an interfaith situation back in Washington, D.C. And they talked about the different faiths, the different faiths. And you know what the thing was? I was like, we have an interfaith community. I said, but are we serving the community overall? So that the issues of the Muslims are not to the point where we can't help the Christians, and the issues of the Christians are not so much they can't help the Jew and virtual. I'm like, because when we walk out of this masjid right now, there's still people who are hungry. There's still people who have lost jobs. There's still people with mental illness. There's still people coming out of prison. I'm like, and that right there is the true focus of interfaith if we're going to talk about a world community. So, brothers and sisters, listen, this is not meant to be a long talk. But it really was that thing, because I had to ask myself, why am I driving looking for this brother? I don't even have his address. And it wasn't that I had goodwill. It's that goodwill had been visited upon me when I was younger. And in many ways, people took time to make sure that they didn't coach me up, they loved me up. So, in the end, brothers and sisters, make sure if you get a chance, love somebody up. All right, let's go ahead and get to our sponsors. So, here we go. We'll give a prayer. Got my mom, Mama Moss coming on. What's going on? Prayers for the community. Appreciate it. That's right, Riri. Yes, it was beautiful every Saturday. If the Lord wills, congratulations. I mean, successful. And that's what we're going to be a community here on the Shout Out Show. We're going to love each other up if I have anything to do with it. All right. So let's get to our sponsors. We're going to call out www.befinanciallyindependent.com. Again, that's www.befinanciallyindependent.com. If you don't have a computer, then you can call 1-888-496-6845. Again, that's 1-888-496-6845. And if you're thinking about getting a quality Islamic graduate level education, you got to check out BAN Islamic Graduate School. Again, that's BAN Islamic Graduate School, brothers and sisters. That's right. Go to banonline.org. Again, that's banonline.org. I mean, if you're interested in Islamic studies, Islamic leadership, Islamic education, or you have an idea that you might want to be a chaplain, a Muslim chaplain, they have one of the best Muslim chaplain programs in the country. Make sure you check them out. So, brothers and sisters, that's my show for today. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. I will be at you tomorrow. Inshallah, take care of yourself. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Shout out, shout.
The world stopped. Mosques closed. So we prayed alone. Gatherings stopped.
But the show must go on. 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 But the show must go on.
Cinema.
But the show must go on. But the show must go on.